Hey everybody, Tripl-L here to talk about the new episode of Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War. I believe we're episode 15. Hey everyone. So, this week I had a lot of fun. We're still in a pretty low energy part, though. I think everyone will kind of agree with that. We're still kind of low energy because it's kind of set up. And one thing definitely when I'm reading, oh, not reading, when I'm watching this episode, I keep thinking about, yeah, like there were a lot of limitations for the manga at that period in time. Just because I feel like a lot of the manga's shenanigans, they're pretty dated in a way, and they're kind of just showing their age on this one. And the places I'm looking at is really Toshiro versus Basby, and then stuff with it was Toshiro versus Basby. Oh yeah, and the power explanations, because to some point it's kind of funny, and on other points it's kind of like, eh. But overall, with the episode, I'm a pretty big Mayuri fan, so whenever I see Mayuri just proving how competent he is, it's always great. Um, it was ultimately really interesting too, just seeing that, yeah, Hashwell was right. Like Hashwell, like was bringing in a lot of good points. And I think like even reading the manga, maybe it was because of the week to week gap. It was easier to forget little things. Although I feel like, well, how many chapters was adapted here? Maybe 4 to 5. That's like the running average for previous episodes. But yeah, ultimately, I look at this episode and I just think like, yeah, these are definitely Bleach's old stylings. And it's really interesting to see it now compared to something like Juju Kai, where Juju Kai kind of gave better reason for why you had to do some of the tropes that Bleach ultimately does. And of course, we'll talk about it here. I got my notes. Let me just very quickly refresh my memory to make sure I'm talking about what I want to talk about. Okay, so let's begin with Hashwell pretty much telling us exactly what they're going to do. That means like they're going to annihilate as quickly as possible. Now, mind you, I think it's fair to say that they failed the annihilate as quickly as possible. I find it funny to say that Huok likes peace. I mean, like, if you destroy everything, there will be nothing, so there will be peace, I guess. But I found that part funny. But, again, the whole annihilate everything quickly as possible, I think it was good enough for justifying why they did the things they did. They were going after the Shinigami. And really, yeah, when you have all the Shinigami that were left over that didn't go to the Zero Squad, they were trying to fight without Bankai. So it pretty much did go the way that Hashwalt imagined it would go. So Naklevar's whole comment about, yeah, you guys are still pretty screwed if the Shinigami did exactly what we thought they were going to do. So that was a really good just setup at the beginning and just kind of answering it. It's really interesting when you look at it because, like, not Oda, Kubo would have been showing the guys making strides in the fights to some degree, but then you're thinking like this is exactly what he said they would do. So yeah, it was a really nice way of just showing that the enemy had the upper hand the entire time. I do question the logic. It's just because like Toshiro, like the few days he had, like his little ice thing with Rangiku, really it just comes out as like exhibition. It's like, oh yeah, this is a pretty neat idea in concept. It'd be pretty cool if you could do this later when you're like powered up. Like the idea of vacuuming, like they had to do a lot to like even get Toshiro up to like one finger level, but that was all it was. It was just technique. And this is like where one of the parts where it's kind of dated comes in. The unfortunate thing here is that if Toshiro is going for a high skilled approach, it's really unfortunate that he just stands around all the time. Like he's very stationary if you notice what's going on in the episode. Like Basby's just throwing around fire and Toshiro's just taking the hits because he keeps thinking this little wall of ice is going to help him, and it's like no, like there is a definite power gap when you're going at the weak but skilled option. You can't just like stand around there. So like that's ultimately why he gets hit so often. If he was as mobile as Rangiku seems to be in this one, it would have been a little bit different. But yeah, like having to stay stationary, there was just no way. Like at some point, the man's going to be able to overpower you. And I think if you were going to say like are the Shinigami being stupid? I think if you're going to say that there's some stupidity happening, it might be that Toshiro thought that Basby was hitting close to his maximum potential when he was fighting, which, all right, like that is a little bit unreasonable, right? But yeah, no, unfortunately with him, and you could even say this is old habits die hard. Like he's a wait and watch type of guy. Maybe you could say that. But I do think it's just like I think it's a side effect of Bleach being very stationary in general. Like it's mostly people talk to each other, then they start fighting for a little bit, then they keep talking to each other. There's a lot of standing around in Bleach, and this is like very reminiscent of old shonen anyway. Alright, you know what? Bleach era shonen. This is like kind of what happens in Bleach era shonen, where people talking is kind of important. That's like one of the unfortunate things. Like if you had him being more mobile, being a little bit more dynamic, I think it could have been a bit more interesting. It's just you can't sit in front of a guy and take the hit like straight on. Not when you have such not when there's such a contrast between the amount of effort being put in. Like Toshiro, to get what he was doing, too much effort has to go into that. He has to keep up that effort. Otherwise, the other guy's just gonna run him over, which is what happened in the episode. But yeah, before we go further, going back to just where we began with everyone sitting around the table, I thought that was a neat little callback to the Arankar arc. I thought that was a really neat little visual. I personally really enjoyed it. I'm not sure if you could tell, but I really enjoyed seeing it. I think the people sitting around the table is a pretty cool look. I've copied it for like 2 of my series as well. It's a pretty cool look. Okay, next up, I kind of talked about this one last week, but the reveal of the Quincy were always there hiding in the shadow. The logic, I think, is sound. They go to Sarate because they could hide underneath their enemies' noses. There's a lot of resources there for them. I do still kind of wonder exactly how everyone's backstories fit into everything, but doesn't really matter. We know they're in the shadows. That's what gives meaning to the ending. We talked about this last week. Thinking about it, I might have given away that the Quincy's were always in the shadows, but I think that was pretty clear after last week, so I think it's okay. Anyway, good reveal, and then of course you have the segue to Mayuri, which is amazing. Mayuri, this man, realizes the stuff, and he goes into it. When he, at the end, says he's pretty much the only guy that can fight without Bankai, aside from Kenpachi. It's like, yeah, no, it really is Mayuri, because he has so many extracurriculars, man. So seeing him being able to come in there, and then the conversation he has with Naklavar, it's like probably one of the best conversations in terms of, yeah, like you have 2 relatively powerful people here. These guys don't want to give away any of their stuff. Mayuri calls Naklavar on his bluff, and Naklavar not being able to do anything is just like, well, I'm gonna just leave because I'm not dealing with you. No, that's actually the best move. With Mayuri, it's best to just not get involved with Mayuri because you don't really know what he's about to do to you. And in Naklavar's case, he's very lucky that he has something that is able to deter Mayuri from getting closer. It's unfortunate that Mayuri didn't have time to like soup up the rest of Soul Society, but he definitely, like, he earns his keep. Of the captains right now, you have Toshiro, who like isn't really earning anything, and then you have Mayuri, who's like on a whole other level. It's always great to see the dominance of Mayuri coming in here. In some ways, honestly, Mayuri should have been one of the war potentials, because when you look at his contributions for the war, they're disproportionate for the position that he had and for the amount of things that he ultimately had a hand in. The man is just doing crazy stuff in the war, and I can't wait for the anime fans to see that, because this guy, without him, a lot of Soul Society goes down. And also, like, Mayuri is just the best at using resources. Again, when it comes to war contributions, Mayuri's right up there. He really should have been a war potential. But I think Kubo knows that giving him that title is too much. It's too much. Like, it solidifies him way too much. This is like a silent hero kind of thing when it comes to Mayuri. But yeah, no, man. He is such a fun character. Always a fun character. And, like, remember this. He is one of the few characters that will not be clowned on throughout the series. Like, a lot of other people, they're going to get a lot of disrespect. Not Mayuri. The guy just doesn't take it, which is just a great time. And then you have Urahara coming in at the end, giving a solution. So you have a good pairing there. You have Mayuri countering the shadow idea, and then you have Urahara possibly countering the Bankais. That's pretty cool. Or the Bankai stealing. Okay, so, yeah, after that we get the Omeda part, where Soifon ultimately comes in to save him, and we see her using her that technique that her and Yoroichi can use. So that one was just interesting because, like, in the manga, it was, well, this is a underserved character, so yeah, you throw him in there, show that he has a really cute sister, and kind of like redeem him, not redeem him, just like elevate him a little bit, because there's nothing to redeem. He's just a pompous guy. Yeah, just elevate him a little bit. For some reason in my head, I think of him better. I don't know that we've gotten the scenes for him in this season so far. Maybe there's more scenes coming. But yeah, when it comes to Omeda, I thought this is just like a bit of character exposition. You have Soifon coming in. Now, we know that they're still kind of using their Shikais. I'm kind of sad that Soifon wasn't using her Shikai, because her Shikai, I think, is more useful than the Bankai, unless you get Aizen coming in and removing the effect with Reiatsu. But yeah, I feel like that was maybe a wasted opportunity. We have her going all out. It was really interesting with hers because they were unable to see that she was able to master her stuff. Now, I do recall that she might have been far away from Serate, so maybe they weren't able to stretch all the way over there. But yeah, she able to come in with that. Unfortunately, Robot Guy was able to counter her. We'll have to see how that ultimately goes. I really thought that she'd actually be one of the ones that could actually do something with that power. Or even if she developed something new. Like Mayuri, I think she's just effective without Bankai. And I feel like with Kubo, because of that 2-hit kill, I think he had to limit her so much because really, it's just when by design, the COD of 2-hit kill is that you have to hit the exact same place twice. For any other person, that is very difficult. But for someone who is precise, like Soifon, like look what happened with Yoroichi. You kind of need Yoroichi to be kind of above her level to be able to avoid getting hit twice. It's kind of unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate that in this case, it's just like you forget that the Shikai exists. And I'm being careful here because I'm pretty sure they have access to Shikai abilities because Toshiro's kind of relying on Shikai abilities. Yeah, that was definitely one of those parts where I just kind of wished that we tried. You know, just try it. Doesn't matter if you say like it fails, just try, right? Instead of just showing off her new mode only to get like obliterated because this is exactly what Hashwalt said. Speaking of Hashwalt, we have a good sequence with him and Kyoraku. And Hashwalt, like, again, the rhetoric on the Quincy side was really good for this one in general. You come in with Hashwalt there, and I think what he said to Nanao, like, yeah, you know, you mastered a pretty cool Kido, and honestly, you guys still have Kido, but you're not really using it. If you went and you taught everyone else this Kido, maybe they could have lasted a little bit longer. It's actually pretty funny. That was pretty good mockery. The mental game with Hashwalt is really high level. Actually, I remember there was the overall sequence with Hashwalt, Kyoraku, and Nanao was very good in general. The one where Nanao goes in there and says that her ability with Kido is why she's the vice captain, and Kyoraku just says, okay, don't be so depressing, or like something like that. That was a funny, good little bit of banter in there, and it's like, it's actually really interesting because when you know what comes later, it's like, yeah, Kyoraku has way more investment in Nanao than she thinks he does. So, that was just a really interesting bit that you see there between the two characters. And you can see with Nanao is like she tries hard. She wants to be worthy of that position that she has, and that's what she has Kido. That's why she goes in that direction. Anyway, cool stuff there. Overall, like a lot of really subtle little moments that I really love in the episode. The overt moments are where I'm not really feeling it. Okay, there's not too much more to cover, but let's go into it. Another thing that I thought, going into like one of the weaknesses, this whole situation with explaining powers, it is so unfortunate that Kubo was never able to figure out a better way of doing this. Because when you have Basby there, confused, and then you have Rangiku saying, hey bro, I'm feeling nice, so I'm going to explain this to you. It's like, bro, you're about to get like burned alive. So let's not be so cocky, because it just really makes her look bad. But really, the reason this happens is because the Bleach powers are really, really complex, and it's hard to kind of like tell the reader what's going on unless you explain it. Now, there are ways to get around this. Like if you were doing a novel, it's very easy. All you have to do, switch over to third person and narrate it through third person narration. It only takes 3 lines if it's an easy enough power. If you can dumb it down to get 3 lines or condense it to get 3 lines, super easy. Alternatively, if you're doing first person, you can do it through internal monologue. You don't have to actually spend time telling someone. Now, Jujukai is much more interesting because Jujukai makes it a mechanic. I will tell you my power because the world is karmic. And because I put myself at an unfavorable position, I will get a power boost. Because of the karmic nature of the world, the balancing act of the world, great. That's why I'm going to explain to you my power, and I'm going to make sure you understand it. Because Jujukai has that mechanic, and it's so fundamental where everyone's abusing it, it makes sense to do it. But when you come back to Bleach, there is no benefit to ever telling anyone how your shit works. So it's unfortunate. And when you have Naklavar there saying, like, I am not explaining my abilities, like, thank God I did it, it's like, yeah, because explaining your abilities is brain dead to some degree. But really, when you come back to it, the problem here is that there wasn't a mechanism that Kubo felt comfortable using to explain these powers. Honestly, the one that he should have copied should have been Hunter x Hunter, because Hunter x Hunter explains powers through narration. I think does JoJo explain powers through narration? Ah, it doesn't really matter. Like Hunter x Hunter explains it. So that should have been the way, but the problem there is that then you kind of maybe lose some of the pacing of the fight. Maybe you lose some of the rhetoric, but it's an unfortunate thing because a lot of times these characters are really competent, and you're dealing with the Quincy who are very competent, such that telling them things isn't smart. And like you see which characters can really take advantage of it, and Naklevar proves it when he tells Mayuri he's not doing it. Telling Mayuri how your power works is a death sentence. That's it. You're gonna die unless you're lying to him. But not many people are capable of lying because like the issue with lying is that then readers of Shonen Jump get confused because they don't like some readers in Shonen Jump aren't fast enough to realize that a character can in fact lie to you. And like a lot of problems when it comes to like the loud minority on like fandom discussions come from people misinterpreting what a character was trying to say. Like, God forbid you ever have a character using sarcasm in a manga, because one, sarcastic tone will not be cannot be easily inferred in dialogue, and two, characters are going to say all kinds of wild things and people are going to take it, and like the it's going to take a very long time before the this was sarcasm catches up, such that by the time you get up to it, this ball's already rolling and someone has a misinterpretation. It's actually really funny. Like, I still see this every now and again when I'm reading people's reactions to manga chapters or whatnot. People are still like saying like, well, why would Garp say this and not do this? It's like, bro, he was being sarcastic, or he like, bro, he was putting on a brave face, he was saving face. Oh god, bro. And even like when we have like the cultural problems where people on the West are not as in tune with the idea of saving face, oh, but when that kind of stuff goes down, yeah, it's super dangerous. Anyway, point of this is just, it's unfortunate. Kubo developed a style that required characters telling people their powers, and because of that, you get into situations where it just looks really bad, and it's really showing its age here. I do think Naklevar pointing out he didn't say anything is Kubo recognizing the flaws, but just it's too late to change it. Also, you're at the end of the series. If anything, the readership you have at the end of the series are the readers who are ride or die with you at this point. So they're gonna go in. They're gonna complain, but they're gonna stick with it, right? So like, you've lost nothing. Anyway, I was looking at the notes. There is not really much else to do other than like that thing at the end with Ichibe. I don't remember that from the manga. What's it called? Inazu Sanato? Something like that? It's so like people like translated this like the sacred, or like, yeah, it means the sacred road with no entry. The trading begins but does not end. What's with this heaviness? Oh, that's quoting stuff from the from what Ichibe said. But yeah, like Inazu Sanato is like the road to like the unreachable shrine or something like that, or the shrine that has no entrance or something like that. When you look at the wording, and this is where now you have Kubo's love of poetry coming in. And for those who don't know, I trained an AI to be able to generate the patterns of Kubo's poetry. It took a while. I had to feed it a lot, but like, I think some of it's missed in like when you translate it to English, but doesn't matter. Point is, his poetry is like, he likes poetry, so he clearly thinks with an artistic mind. When you look at it, I feel like they're talking about evolution on this one. I feel like it's the evolution of the soul that's going on here. And when you know what happens later on in Bleach, it's like, curious. But yeah, definitely I look at this part and I feel like this is older Kubo adding stuff to make the subtext even cooler. Like he's foreshadowing stuff better. So it's really neat to see, and it's really neat to see Kubo's his development of like higher end deity is always really interesting to see. Like, if anything, Kubo probably has one of the best handles on philosophy when it comes to the Shonen Jump authors. Probably one of the best handles on philosophy, because like the Zanpakuto philosophies are just so good. And also he's one of the few ones that actually does poetry in his manga, so like that gives him an automatic like bump up. But yeah, no, his philosophies are really good. Now, a lot of the philosophies I think are strongest in Can't Fear Your Own World, which is a novel that comes after this time period. But because he had the Durarara author helping him, I'm not sure if the expression of the philosophy was actually Kubo's own doing. And what I mean by that is, like, Kubo I think is largely an idea man. Like he has really good ideas, but I think he struggles getting those ideas out on paper. I think now that he's a little bit older, I've seen signs that his philosophy expression has gotten better. Because I look at sometimes his Q&As that he has for his little fan club, and some of the answers are so obtuse that it's like he's playing with the meaning of words, like when he explains the nature of Ichigo's Bankai or stuff like that, such that it does feel like his philosophy expression is getting better. But yeah, no man, definitely. Like when it comes to Kubo, if I was to say like the things that I love about Kubo in general, it's like Mayuri, and then it's the Zanpakuto philosophies, because the way the Zanpakuto relate with their characters, it gets better the longer Bleach goes on, because the longer Bleach goes on, the older Kubo gets to be able to express these ideas. Like when we come into Ichibei and when he talks about what he ultimately represents, it'll be just a good time. Like Kubo definitely got better with age. Actually, yeah, man. Like you look at Kubo's trajectory and like, bro, the bro comes out with Burn the Witch and he gets it made into a movie, and it's like, yeah, no, 100%. The man like got better with age. I think even like relaxation helped him a lot too. Anyway, yeah, bro, listen, it's a great episode. I see a lot of little things I love in Bleach. I see a lot of little things that I think are like dated. But yeah, great episode of Bleach. Really gets me excited for the future. I want to see the new expanded scenes. Guys, let me know what you thought down below. Until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.